Alasdair, hello.
Hello, Sam, my love. How are you doing?
I'm good. I feel like I'm always very, at least recently, I'm very like musical when I start this because when we record these, we've been talking for like half an hour.
Oh yeah, and then we put on this like persona, like Samuel.
How are you? And it lasts for like 2 seconds before it gets real.
We're going into the serious drama of Doctor Who.
Yeah, no, this is our audition to be on the 2024 roster of Big Finish. We're going to be the new Jacob Dubman.
I feel like I could do audio drama.
I definitely feel like I could do audio drama.
Something I find so interesting about audio drama, not to stick on this, but some people who act so well on screen act so artificially on audio. I don't know if they just like having words in front of them makes them act weird. I'd be interested to see how some people like act different, maybe if they had to learn the lines and then say them, if they'd be different, but you can feel it's being read sometimes.
This is the thing. I think a lot of them are reading. There was a Doctor Who universe actress who I don't want to name because I'll get dragged for filth on Twitter, and I actually really love this actress, but I was listening to a clip of a Big Finish audio that they did, and in Doctor Who they have like made me cry. They are amazing. I'll tell you who it is after we finish recording. They're such an incredible actor, and I was listening to this speech that they did. It was like a monologue on Big Finish, and I was just like, this is so dead. Like, you're just reading this script. And I was just like, it's just not tea. This is flop Tina Aguilera.
Oh, how mean. Oh, you're a horrible man. No, I know, like literally exactly this. Like, I was listening to, this is really great, Big Finish Out of Context compilations on YouTube are really good. Oh,
that's so good.
But some of the line deliveries, I'm like, my God.
What was the one? I think there was one that John Barrowman did where it was like, it was the equivalent of Carol Channing going, raspberries, like just out of context. It's so weird. I sent you a clip just before we recorded this of an interaction that Jackie Tyler, River Song, and Jack Harkness had in a laundrette. And
very surreal.
It was so surreal, and it was about Jackie Tyler saying that everything River Song says sounds sensual, and she's like, go on, say duck pancakes.
Go on, say duck pancakes.
Before we get into the meat of this episode, I was going to ask you what you were doing this week, but I know what you were doing this weekend. Can you please tell me your experience of Barbenheimer?
Oh my God, Barbenheimer. It's incredible to me. Barbenheimer, it's such a one-off or like once in a decade cultural experience, and I really hope no brand tries to replicate it artificially in future because it was such a nice accidental pairing. Because I really think I think Warner Brothers was trying to do a shady on Christopher Nolan, not kind of like do some funny co-marketing thing with this.
Yeah, for sure.
It's funny that I think it gave like Oppenheimer a boost.
It gave both of them a boost.
I'm already amazed that wasn't kind of the biggest opening weekend ever, because it felt like as an event it was, but maybe it's just, I mean, it's probably locked within our little bubble, isn't it?
Well, I was going to say, I don't know how much of it's in our echo chamber, because I haven't thought, it's funny you were saying about once in a decade, because I think if social media was big in the late noughties, so I don't know if you know this, but The Dark Knight and Mamma Mia came out on the same day, and they were saying that the Dark Mama walked so Oppenheimer could run. And I think that was really funny. The Dark Mama.
I hadn't heard that. I love that. I love living in a Barbie world. It's fantastic.
It really is.
Living Life in Plastic, it's fantastic.
I was waiting for you to do that.
There was another cultural phenomenon, and I can't remember what it was, but someone else said this was another great example, and they were like, what people really want is a chance to dress up. That's all they want. They just want to put on a silly costume and dress up. What was I can't remember what the other example was. So annoying. But I mean, you couldn't really dress up so much for Oppenheimer. So
you say that, but I've seen many a suit. I've seen my friend who's down here on the job that I'm on, she did Oppenheimer in the morning, Barbie in the evening, and she wore like full black suit, leather, Peaky Blinders cap, and then the hot pink jumpsuit afterwards. And she came back to the accommodation we're staying in at the moment, and I saw her at like 11, and I'd come from my Barbie screening, and I was in my Barbie t-shirt, my gingham, and my cowboy hat, and we kind of like met in the middle of the road, and she was in hot pink, and we were like, what have y'all been doing?
What y'all been doing?
Yeah, I mean, we are going into Doctor Who with Ken himself. Like he's just Ken. But he's not just Ken. I think that
he's everything.
He's everything. Anyway, but to steer too clear of Barbie spoilers, because we don't want to spoil it for anyone, you should go watch it. It does feel like we're going into the Ncuti Gatwa Barbie era of Doctor Who, and one might say we're heading into a renaissance.
Baby, welcome to the Renaissance. Dun 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 dun.
Yeah, it's so welcome to the Renaissance, baby. I mean, Renaissance or Renaissance for you?
I probably say Renaissance. but I think she does say it Renaissance.
I think the American is Renaissance and the British is Renaissance.
Yeah.
Because it's closer to the European. But I will say welcome
But we
to
are
Renaissance.
in our second Renaissance era, I believe, of Doctor Who. It does feel like we're riding a big incoming wave of interest into Who that I haven't seen for a long time. It definitely feels like Who has suddenly got a lot of cultural relevance again. And I think, well, we'll talk about what the reasons for that. I think that is massively owed to Ncuti Gatwa and Russell T Davies.
At 3,000%. And I will credit, I know that we kind of joke about David Tennant having had his time and like whatever, but I think a lot of it is to David as well. And I think that David Tennant's always had a really strong fan base, but especially recently since he's been a lot more vocal on like non-binary issues and like being such a big part of like the trans plus community. I think that having a straight man like that in a show where there are so many queer people working on the show be so vocal about this new amazing and exciting thing coming up is really great too.
Yeah, it is nice that we have this like very popular old face of the show come through to like usher in the new era. It's quite perfect, really, isn't it, as well? This episode is really about, I think, what it's been like to be a Who fan over the last kind of 2 years. And as we're now in this very final run-up to the new season, the new RTD2 era, I think we're taking a bit of a look back really at what we know so far, what we've learned, but also we were kind of inspired to talk about this because I think we realised there's such a gap between how we feel about Doctor Who now and how we felt about it in 2021 and how the fan experience has changed as well and kind of what that's been like. And I suppose what we can all look forward to together going into the new era, really.
Exactly. I feel like Alice is saying, and we also haven't said, this is our season 2 finale of Wholala.
It's the last one.
It's the last one until the next one. I don't know how many podcasts do things in seasons, and we kind of just decided we were doing it one day. But yes, this is the season 2 finale of Wholala. We'll be taking a 1 week break next week before we dive straight into season 3. And I think we wanted to look back on where we both were with Who, where the world is with Who, and where Who is going forwards, because season 3 of Wholala is going to be full speed baby going into the new era, and we're going to be really sort of jumping in head first into what we've got coming up. So we wanted to take a moment before that and sort of look back on what's come before, again, dig into some of our favourite things. Like we love talking about what connected us to Doctor Who as childhood, and there's a lot of things I want to talk about in regards to that and what's coming next. And there's just a lot to chat about. It's going to be a bit of a fun chat, this one.
There's a lot to chat about because the Who train is a chugging down the tracks. And she's saying choo choo, bitch. She's saying choo choo.
She is saying choo.
I
swallow,
see steam
choo.
coming out the tunnel and she's about to burst out and shock some sheep. It's coming.
The sheep in the Welsh valleys have no idea what's going for them.
I didn't know where I was going with that sentence.
Well, so I think the first thing we sort of want to talk about is why we think we're going into a renaissance of Doctor Who.
Yes.
And I think, like Alice has said, he put it really well, that there's suddenly it feels like anyway, there's a piqued interest in Doctor Who, and it's not stopped yet, it's still going up. And just speaking on my own behalf, as everyone listening to this already knows, biggest Doctor Who kid in the world, grew up huge Doctor Who fan, but then as I was going into, I turned 18 and was getting older, I kind of, not was made to feel, but I think felt the societal pressure to leave things that you enjoyed as a kid that are considered childish behind, and it's time for you to grow up. And so also I think Doctor Who was changing in ways that was different from how I was as a kid, not necessarily for the worse or for the better, but just different than what I had grown up with. So I had other things going on, and I definitely started missing episodes and wasn't as invested as I was previously. And definitely with the Russell announcement that he was coming back as showrunner, and then all of the things coming from that, I've slowly been creeping my interest back in, rewatching things, refinding my feet. And now I'm at a stage where I feel like I'm just as much, if not more, of a Who fan that I was when I was a kid. And it hasn't even come out yet. Do you know what I mean? The most recent episode of Doctor Who that came out was the finale of Jodie Whittaker's era, which was great. And it was the first time. Our second episode, I know, it was the first time that I'd properly, me and Alasdair, I think the first episode we watched together was the Sontaran one in the Flux, I think.
Oh.
Isn't that we watched live?
Yeah, maybe.
I think that it was, but it was the first time in years that I was waiting for Doctor Who to come on. Legend of the Sea Devils, the episode before this, I actually missed it when it was on. I think it was Sunday or the Monday after it was on. I suddenly was oh, there was new Doctor Who, let's watch that. Whereas when Power of the Doctor, and I'm going to get dragged online for that, but when Power of the Doctor came on, me and Alistair sat down with my boyfriend, and I just felt like giddy. I don't know about you, but we were just like grabbing each other and watching it with a fan as well. It's amazing.
We were clinging to each other because it was that passover from one era to the next and being done with so much love and care that I think, we were just very excited to see the baton get passed back, I think. I mean, it's been a really weird time because Rusty Davies was announced to return in September 2021. And I remember reading that announcement and it feeling like, like a prank. Like it was so absurd that he'd come back because it was just like, what? And to us, I mean, if you don't know where you are on Wholala, like he, to us is kind of like the father of the renaissance of the show, and it's not to kind of like almost like hold up this guy and say, he was perfect and he's emblematic of everything Doctor Who should be, because so many other wonderful people have contributed to the show, and he's by no means kind of the authority on Doctor Who or the only vision of Doctor Who that's correct. Like we don't feel that way about it, but it was kind of insane to think like, oh my god, this guy who kind of almost like shepherded our favorite show during our childhood, created a lot of our favorite characters and created a lot of our favorite media after that. This was pretty fresh off the back of It's a Sin coming out and winning a huge bunch of awards, and we remained Russell fans without Doctor Who. It was just quite surreal. Like I think it felt a bit like reading a prank. It was a bit like a April Fool's headline.
I was like, it's not April 1st, is it?
Yeah, and I really remember that feeling of just like, what? So it's interesting. I mean, I probably fell off the show. I didn't fall off the show. I never fell off the show. I'm happy to say it. That's not me trying to do a brag, but it's like I said, I think with Doctor Who, I'm probably now tied in for life because I'm always going to want to know what happens next. I think I'm so knee deep in the story now. Whoever's running it, whoever the Doctor is, whatever year it is in the future, I will have to watch it and just understand where the story went next. I think I'll always be interested in what happens. So I'll probably be a lifelong viewer, but I do remember there being a few bumpy points where people started to wane, as we transitioned even just into series 5, and there was a lot of change around that time. We talked about that a lot in our 11th hour episode. I feel like a lot of people moved at that point and they let it go because that was quite a change of direction for a lot of parts of the show. There was a lot of very complex story arcs that I think lost more casual viewers. We had some slightly bumpy episodes as we approached the 50th anniversary. That got a bit of interest back again, but then I think that waned again during the Capaldi era.
Do you know what I think that was? I think that the 50th did bring in, I remember you said this before, you were like, this'll get people. Like people who fell off the wagon, like this'll get them. And I feel like it piqued the interest of people because like David Tennant was coming back and Billy Piper would be back and all that kind of stuff. And I feel like quite a few people probably came for the adventure. Like they stopped by, but they didn't stay for the ride. Like they enjoyed the episode and then they moved on with their lives. Whereas we were like, what do you mean you're not watching series 8? Like,
what do you mean? What do you mean? No, I totally agree. And it was sandwiched in an awkward place as well. It was around like the Name of the Doctor, the Night of the Doctor.
They did that trilogy, yeah.
There was a whole other arc happening at the same time.
And night.
Yeah, I mean, if you followed on immediately from the Day of the Doctor, it'd be quite easy to get lost again quite soon because it leant back on its own kind of like series 6 arc again with the silence and the cracks, and it kind of brought together a lot of the like Moffat era storylines to a conclusion, and that was difficult to follow, to say the least. And again, I mean, like we've said, like one of the differences really between like Russell and Stephen Moffat is that Stephen Moffat revisits a lot of kind of different eras of the show, I think, more than Russell does. And it's also quite an introspective in that he kind of really does like deep dives on the characters and explores kind of morality and ethics, and the whole theming, like we've said, is more fairy tale. It's not so easy to drop in on, I think, Stephen Moffat's world as it is to drop in on kind of Russell's more like contemporary feel, perhaps.
Yeah, we're really lucky going into the 60th compared to the 50th because they were doing the 50th anniversary celebrations, which is a celebration of all 50 years that come before, and then the following episode was a regeneration episode into a leaving Doctor. Whereas I think that, so it felt a bit like they had to then quickly wrap up everything that had already gone on. So like you said, it was really difficult to jump on. Whereas going into the 60th, they are making the 60th specials, the whole theme of it is change, and it's like looking back at what's been done before, looking forward at what we've got to come, and then that will finish with the new Doctor, so that the next episode, if you go, oh, I really enjoyed those, let's watch the next episode and see, it's the start of a new story, and you really can join at these specials. And I think that's what these are very much going to be marketed, when they ever do marketing beyond that one bloody trailer, but they're going to market it as like a jumping on point for both new fans, but I think more so the fans who were like, oh my God, I used to love that when I was a kid. I love Christopher Eccleston, I love David Tennant, and I kind of stopped watching when I got older. And I think those are the people they would really love to get back.
I think they definitely create a fresh jumping on point here using David Tennant, which would be interesting. And I like to think that they're aware enough now that, you've got a lot of fans who weren't alive when the first episode of the 2005 revival came back. You can't expect people now to know all
Millie
of that
Gibson
continuity.
only just made it.
Millie Gibson is in it, and she was barely a baby, at that time. So I think it's absolutely the right time to give it a little bit of a soft reboot. I think that's really what they're trying to do with this. I think the specials coming up in November are going to be a little bit of a love letter to what's kind of happened in the New Who era, a little bit of a wave goodbye to that. I think probably the very final TV appearance for David Tennant, unless there's some kind of aged up cameo one day for
Guardians of the Edge.
Guardians of the Edge inclusion, I think he's probably now done. And I think Ncuti Zero, though I'm sure it will continue to have callbacks, cameos, I think is going to rely, really very little on what's gone before it to understand it. I think you'd be able to jump in from series 14 and enjoy the show as if you'd never seen it before. I'm pretty confident. Shall I share? Let's talk a bit about what we know. Let's talk about the specials. I hear a lot of confusion about the specials. People kind of say to me, so like, what's happening? Is it series 14 now? Is Ncuti the Doctor now? No, Ncuti's not the Doctor
They
yet.
always say to me, they're like, so is David Tennant going to have a full series?
No, my love.
But I was surprised we were getting 3 specials. I thought he was only going to come back for. Do you remember when we thought that they were going to do a special per Doctor?
That'd be so
At
nice,
one point.
but no.
It would be nice. I mean, it's still not too late. We still don't know.
It's not too late.
Yeah.
I think even maybe Rusty Davies said he wasn't super keen on multi-Doctor stories, and some of the previous actors, definitely Peter Capaldi, said they weren't keen on it. Christopher Eccleston hates it.
Yeah.
Not everyone's in on it. So in terms of who's now making Doctor Who, when it was passed over to Russell T Davies, they also announced that it's now going to be made by Bad Wolf Studios rather than just being done by the BBC. So Bad Wolf.
That was a gag.
That was a gag. So Bad Wolf is a production studio founded by former Doctor Who executives Julie Gardner and Jane Tranter. They both worked on series 1 to 4 with Russell T Davies. Jane Tranter is also exec producer of Succession, and she was, I think, like the BBC drama commissioner at the time that Doctor Who came back. So she oversaw loads of stuff. She's extremely experienced in television. And they're both supporting the new series as well. Sony Pictures, interestingly, have a majority ownership of Bad Wolf since 2021 as well. So there's money, baby. And Bad Wolf has made shows like His Dark Materials, I Hate Susie, Industry. Phil Collinson, who also produced series 1 to 4, is also returning as an exec producer on this. He largely did Corrie in the meantime, but he's back.
Good for him.
He's back. Good for him. And the gag was Disney was announced, and I think a shock to everyone. Initially, Disney Plus was just announced as a distributor, but then it was later reported in the Telegraph that actually Disney will have creative input in the series and handle all the distribution outside the UK, but sort of acting as more of a co-producer and kind of throwing some Mickey Mouse money in there as well.
Yeah, I definitely had heard like Russell had pitched them a script for the specials, and they basically were like, that's not big enough. You have this much money, write something bigger. And he was like, okay.
I think it was the series 1 opener, and he had some notes on it, and they said that he could make it better. They were like, you can make this more exciting. And he said he went back and redid it, and it was better. So I think they were quite keen to emphasize that Disney has very much bought into Russell's vision. They are not trying to kind of interrupt his version of the show. It remains a British TV show.
Oh, for
It
sure.
won't become
Yeah.
Americanized like kind of other co-productions we've seen, like Torchwood, Stars, Miracle Day.
I want to say this as well, and I feel like, I know I always joke, I'm like, haha, I work in TV, but I genuinely do feel like I have a bit of personal insight for this. A lot of people have a fear that Disney will come in with their Disney money and somewhat Americanize the show, or change it or make it something that it's not. But I've worked on a British Disney funded production. The show has not come out yet. It has been announced, but it's not come out yet. And it's entirely British produced. It's an almost entirely British cast, shot in England, big budget as well. Like, I'm assuming it's a similar budget to what they'll have for Doctor Who. Maybe Doctor Who will have a bigger like CGI budget though. And there have been so many amazing British shows produced for Disney Plus. Another one, I don't know if you've seen it, Alistair, is Extraordinary.
No.
The show, it's, you need to watch it. It's so good. It's a comedy sort of drama set in England, or I think it's like an alternate reality England where everyone has superpowers when they turn 18 and one girl doesn't, and you're following her. And there are so many incredible British productions that have Disney funding behind them, made by other production companies. And so having Bad Wolf Studios be the ones making it, yes, Disney will have like creative input, but it will be a British produced product. Doctor Who isn't going to become a brand new show. It's just going to become the same show that we always knew, with much more money behind it, which excites me because Russell's always said the one thing he wished for his first era was that he was doing it on a bigger budget with like better CGI. He wished he had tools that he just didn't have access to then. And now he has a much bigger playground. That's how I see it.
That's what I was going to say. Is I remember back in maybe 2015, I was watching the first series of Stranger Things on Netflix. And I think this is when like the Netflix hype really first was kicking off, and everyone was like, "Oh, Netflix is the future. The BBC's doomed. You know, this is it." And in the end, that hasn't really like come to fruition. I think Netflix is in gigantic debt. They keep deleting their own shows, and the BBC is actually still churning out a lot of like really, really high quality content. And, you know, sometimes it just means co-producing with other people to be able to make that. But like, there's loads of like really, really good stuff on iPlayer, like really, really good quality stuff that you really want to watch. And, you know, I don't think Netflix was like the iPlayer killer that people thought it would be at that time. I remember thinking like, damn, I really wish in a way that like Doctor Who was like a Netflix budget show, like, because you'd watch something like Stranger Things. And this was really at like the inception of, I think, like, the idea that streaming shows would be like cinema quality was really shocking. Like that they would be like, they'd have very like
Sense8, things like that.
Very high production value, really great effects, things you normally see in cinema, and suddenly they're being done on TV. And it was quite surprising. I mean, maybe that's just my impression of how it felt at the time.
No, it's the same. Yeah. Like, I remember when Daredevil came out on Netflix and it was suddenly like, oh my goodness, you're getting Marvel movie level content, but I can watch it on my laptop at home. And like, that's when it's coming out.
And I feel like it was around that time that Russell T Davies had said, "Oh, I feel like I almost made Doctor Who too soon. And I wish I could have done it with a Netflix budget, because I would have been able to do so much more. Like, even if I'd done the same stories, it would have been elevated to that level." That's what feels largely exciting about that, is you have the kind of creative vision behind this with more budget. However, I must say, on budget, there was at one point this huge excitement. It was a number that we quoted at one point, and we were like, "It's going to be 10 million an episode. Yeah. This is how much that is." And we were like, it's about like halfway between this one and Game of Thrones. And then anyway, they clarified. They were like, it is not, specifically not 10 million an episode.
Sorry for selling falsities. If you want to listen to us talk about that, you're going to have to go back to A Queer Universe in Series 1 of Wholala, and you can listen to us spread lies.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. It's not £10 million an episode, but it's what Russell called a lovely, handsome budget. And Jane jumped in, Jane Tranter, and specified, "We are not Game of Thrones." And I think off the back of that as well, Phil Collinson jumped in with a comment here, which was quite interesting. I think this was all in Doctor Who magazine.
It's where most of our news comes from.
I think this is almost like a relief for Who fans to hear, because we like the improvisation. We like the campy charm of Doctor Who. We don't want Doctor Who too slick.
Yeah.
It needs to keep a little bit of its, quirk and charm. Phil Collinson said, "I still spend 75% of my day in meetings trying to work out how many monsters we can afford and how to make it look like we've got twice as many, how we can revamp that set and reuse it. How do we take these massive, ambitious, brilliant, gorgeous scripts and make them the absolute best we can for the money we've got?"
Beautiful. I know. I mean, they kind of like joked on it, even with the budget they had for the 50th, where they did the 5-ish Doctors, and Pete Davidson was like, the sets aren't wobbly. Why, they used to be wobbly. Like, I think Doctor will always have that kind of slapdashness to it. And like, you can really tell when they're like reusing a corridor they used earlier in the season, and you're like, I recognize this corridor. You've just painted it again. And that's kind of the charm of it. You don't want it to feel too slick. I think that's a good way of putting it.
So what we're getting next is we're getting 3 60th anniversary specials. Well, at some point in November. I'm pretty sure we've heard November a few times.
Oh yeah,
now.
no, it's been confirmed November. We just don't have a date yet.
We don't know when. With the 60th anniversary being on the 23rd of November, though it falls on an awkward day, doesn't it? I feel like it's like a Thursday.
No, it is. It's like a Tuesday or Thursday. I remember hearing a rumor that they were saying that they'll wait to air the episode on a Saturday. So on the actual date, I think they might just air like The Unearthly Child or something. That was a rumor that I heard.
Oh, okay. And then when those specials have wrapped up, we get a Christmas special.
Yep. I'm assuming that's on Christmas.
Well, let's hope so. And then we get 8 episodes every year from then on. So we're back, baby. After that, we're back.
We are
the
back,
dry period is done,
baby. And
I've done my time.
We've done our waiting, and this is what I'm super excited for: is Doctor Who to go back to not just yearly seasons, because we haven't had a full season, because obviously we had Flux, but that was more of like a mini season due to COVID and stuff. We haven't had a full season since I believe 2021, and this full season will be in 2024, which is 3 years later.
Yeah,
Isn't that insane?
Since we've been doing this podcast, and this is episode 40 of a TV show that is not cancelled and is not on hiatus, we've had 1 episode
literally
to talk about. And in the gap before that, we'd had like a 6-month break or something since the previous one. So we were in the trenches, honey, and we're getting some content.
I am over it, and I am so excited to dive into these specials. I don't want to linger on the specials too long because there's so much to talk about what's coming, but just a few cast announcements in case you've missed anything. So as you know, we're going to have the 3 specials with David Tennant and Catherine Tate coming back as the Doctor and Donna. Interestingly, coming back as the 14th Doctor. David Tennant has said that, what I'm glad is that I think a lot of people were worried that they were going to just like scrub out anything that happened after Russell's era and just kind of jump back as if this is series 4.2. But it's funny seeing interviews with David Tennant and Catherine Tate where David is such a Doctor Who fan. You can tell he has kept watching and he really knows his stuff, and Catherine just doesn't know anything and just dips in and out, and she's just there for fun. And he was saying about how, the Doctor has been so many people and changed so much that he's not going to be playing the same character he did before because it's not the same man. And then he was saying, I'm playing the 14th Doctor, but, we don't even know how many the Doctor has been. And Catherine was like, don't we?
Don't you? What do you mean?
What do you mean?
And there was this whole kind of discussion that we put up about kind of like, do we explain the timeless child to Catherine? Is there any point?
I don't think there's any point in that. We're getting Yasmin Finney cast as Rose Temple Noble, who was critically acclaimed for her role in Heartstopper. Obviously not the same Rose. I think it's quite funny. I think a newspaper reported they were like rebooting the character that Billie Piper played in Doctor Who, and everyone's like, no, that's not happening.
No. Let's read. Let's try literacy, huh?
Let's try literacy. In the specials, we'll also be getting the return of Donna's family. So Bernard Cribbins playing her granddad, Sylvia Noble, Jacqueline King, and Carl Collins as Sean Temple, who I'm guessing might be now Sean Temple Noble as well. I feel like they probably both became Temple Nobles. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, oh my God. Do you remember this time, though? This was May 2022, and I have lost all sense of time. Like, I can't believe it was that recent that we got these announcements about castings, and this is when we got those first scenes start to leak as well from the filming in Camden.
Photos.
And to be honest, I wish I'd gone down and had a look at it happening.
Me too.
It was just so fantastic. But we got those kind of like emoji reveals as well. So they would like put out like heart plus, and then it would be like a diamond or a blue box,
or a rose,
and then they did these, or a rose, and it left us guessing, and then we got revealed a few hours later. But the marketing, like the hype around that was so solid, and the discussions that went on, what they've done so well, I think, and we'll go through some more of the things we've been hearing, but is drip feeding us this information throughout the year as well as we've gone. These announcements were in May, and even just for these 3 episodes, we've had so many little drips and drabs of information. We've got everyone you just announced kind of revealed in May, plus they revealed the Ncuti Gatwa casting in May, which I didn't see coming. I don't think it was on anyone's list
No,
for potential castings.
it wasn't. And I think it's really, I love to look back on New Who as to how they announced who the Doctor would be. I kind of wish they wouldn't. I kind of wish they would just at some point drop an episode and you don't know who the Doctor will be until they regenerate. But if you look back, Christopher Eccleston had a press release because they were announcing the new series of the show. David Tennant, again, press release, I believe. Matt Smith was revealed during Doctor Who Confidential. And I remember it being quite a weird drop. It was halfway through the episode and then suddenly it just cut to Matt Smith doing a talking head and it was like Matt Smith, the Doctor. And we were all like, oh, I guess it's that guy. And then we had a whole TV episode dedicated
live
to Peter
TV
Capaldi.
event.
Yeah, a live TV event
Yeah.
dedicated to Peter Capaldi. We then had a teaser trailer, a specially filmed teaser trailer announcing Jodie Whittaker. And I think that there's something really smart and subtle about Russell choosing to do these casting announcements on Instagram using the emojis. And then all they did was release the headshot of Ncuti saying Ncuti Gat was the Doctor.
Well, even better than that, they timed the reveal for when Ncuti was already scheduled to be on the BAFTA red carpet. So they got free marketing.
Literally.
Because all the press were already there. The photographers were already there. So they kind of walked the red carpet together. Ncuti and Russell T Davies.
They knew they were both going to be at the BAFTAs. I think for separate. I think Ncuti was there for Sex Ed, and I think Russell was there for It's a Sin. Yeah. Beyond. I wonder if that was Russell's idea, or if the publicist team, like at Babel Studios,
someone's working hard.
We're doing
Someone's working hard.
Someone was working hard. But yeah, there's been so many amazing casts. I can't even list them all. Neil Patrick Harris, Ruth Madley, Shirley Ann Bingham. We're getting Beep the Meat, Wrath Warriors, Unit Soldiers. There is so much in these specials. We do have the names now. We don't have much. We do have the names. Episode 1's going to be The Star Beast, directed by Rachel Talalay. Episode 2 is going to be The Wild Blue Yonder, directed by Tom Kingsley. And episode 3 will be called The Giggle, directed by Chania Button, all written by Russell T Davies. What did you think of these episode titles when they announced them?
Very good. I think, like you just said, we already had some speculation, I think, from like leaks and behind the scenes photos that it was going to feature Beep the Meep, who, for anyone who doesn't know, is a very obscure character from way back in, I think, Doctor Who magazine comic strips. And it's a very cute character and deceptively sweet, and actually is incredibly vicious and evil character. People were thrilled to see that Beep the Meep is going to be the focus of the new episodes. So I think the Star Beast is an allusion to the title of that comic that features Beep the Meep. The Giggle, we really don't know what that is. Wild Blue Yonder as well is a little bit of a mystery, though there are some theories circulating. And that middle episode there, Wild Blue Yonder, the second one, we really haven't seen very much from it. So while we've seen kind of clips from the Star Beast and the Giggle, in fact, someone has gone as far as to stitch together pretty much 10 minutes of behind the scenes kind of, well, clips that they filmed from a distance of them filming in Camden and basically subtitled and added soundtrack to the first 10 minutes of The Star Beast, which is insane. And it looks like they pretty much got it right as well, just with lip reading.
You kind of get, I won't spoil anything for anyone, but you get like what happens in the first 10 minutes. You see the 14th Doctor, you see Donnie, you see Rose Temple Noble, and just from, a fan-made video from footage that they filmed on their iPhone while watching, that made me so excited that I can't even anticipate how I'm going to be in November when the special's there.
The second episode, Wild Blue Yonder, is the one that seems to be the most under wraps. We haven't really seen anything released from that episode, and I think that's the one that we suspect is going to either like have the most kind of fan service in it, probably have some kind of a surprising cameo in it. We're not sure yet, but that's probably going to feel maybe like the most anniversary episode. It might be the one that kind of answers the question the most of kind of why exactly this has happened to the 14th Doctor, why his face is back, and then maybe the resolution all comes in the giggle. Well, the resolution will have to come in the giggle.
Well, this is what
maybe we'll get the resolution in the last episode.
We'll get the resolution in the giggle. I mean, this is how I see it. I see episode 1 being reintroduction to the Doctor and Donna, them trying to work out why they're being put together again. Episode 2, fun adventure. Episode 3, conclusion. And some people think that Donna's going to, have her heart broken again. It's going to end horribly for Donna. Some people think this is going to be like the happy resolution for Donna that she never got. Personally, and again, we've spoken about this on the podcast before, I hope Donna had always said she'd travel with the Doctor forever. She would stay with him forever. And I hope that it will end with her being able to keep her memories of the time with the Doctor, and the Doctor sort of asking, like, do you want to come with me? And she says, if you had asked me, before I would have said yes, I travel you forever, but now I've been on Earth and I've had my family and I have my husband, I have my daughter. I would not want to be anywhere they're not, and I want to stay here with them, and that leads the Doctor onto new adventures, and it gives Donna some kind of closure. That's what I'm
love
hoping
that
for.
as well.
Or maybe she'll die. I don't know.
If they killed her off, it doesn't feel very celebration.
I know it's not very.
It doesn't feel a celebration.
Years,
it isn't, but we have seen a bunch of behind the scenes photos released as well of Shooty's Doctor running through a graveyard. So we can't really.
Nothing's off the table. Nothing's off the table.
Nothing's off the table. And then on to Series 14. As we said, it is kicking right off the back of this. It will be a very short gap, only a month between the conclusion of the specials and the Christmas episode. We're going to be working overtime.
No, I've been planning. So I love to schedule things in advance. I've been planning a little calendar of what we're doing and when. And November and December are going to be a busy time for us. Me and us were talking recently about whether or not we're going to have to do a recording on Boxing Day morning to release on Boxing Day evening.
I don't recall this conversation.
This has happened. We've spoken about this.
I was nodding. It was a pre-recorded clip. Sometimes on Zooms when I don't really want to talk. It's a loop.
Exactly.
just a nod.
Well, look, I'm ready for the content to come thick and fast, baby.
It's gonna, and then pretty soon after that, we're gonna get Series 14 air. Very interesting. There was a previous copy of Doctor Who magazine. It's not the newest one that's out. It's really funny the stuff that we cling to as well in that. I think within that, Russell said something like, the new title sequence is in development. And the takeaway from that, people weren't like, oh, they haven't finished the title sequence yet. It was confirmed we're getting a title sequence. And it was like, yes, girl.
Of course we are.
We guess. We thought so. But I mean, any announcement, we'll take it. I think they basically said they've concluded filming Series 14. Super exciting. They, I think, hadn't at that time fully completed post-production on any of the specials. They were all still in development. Series 15, which won't be out until 2025, is very much in development, and Russell has already he's writing 4 scripts from that at once, and he said some of them are like the best thing he's ever written. So
I can't believe we're getting teasers for a series of a TV show that's going to come out in like up to 3 years.
Yeah. So I'd imagine that he's also starting to sketch out, if he's staying on that long, which I imagine he is, a bit of what Series 16 will look like, which for comparison is a bit like him sketching out the return of Rose before the Christmas Invasion aired. So that's kind of how long in advance we're thinking here.
I love watching that clip of Billie Piper on Doctor Who Confidential for Turn Left when they were like asking her like, oh, how do you feel returning to Doctor Who? And she's like, well, I've always known I was coming back. And like she would do interviews in 2006 where she's like, I don't think I'll go back, Doctor Who. It's time for me to move on. I've had my time. And she's like, we always knew this was happening. Like this was planned. Yeah.
She said like, I made a deal when I went. It was always in there.
Yeah.
It's funny that such deals are probably already happening across the board as well. With current cast.
Well, speaking of, people are wondering, there seems to be like a 3-series curse where a Doctor will stay for 3 full series and then leave, maybe with some specials here and there. And people are hoping Shooty will break that. We have had confirmation. I think Shooty has said he's definitely staying for Series 15. So we know we're going to be getting at least 2 series. We're hoping 3, hopefully 4 going onwards. But to be honest, Shooty's a busy man and he's doing some huge projects. Like we're saying, he did Barbie. Obviously, he's finishing Sex Education, going on to all these amazing things. He performed at the Coronation. And can they afford to keep him that long? Like, I don't know.
It's a really tricky one. I don't know. I wonder what his contract looks like. I mean, he is going to be a very in-demand star. Everyone who's gone on from Doctor Who has continued to have a really, massive career. And I have no doubt that offers are coming in thick and fast for him. They had to film a lot of Series 14 without him, where they basically filmed all of Millie Gibson's scenes as her character Ruby Sunday. We didn't talk about Ruby Sunday. Millie Gibson's also been cast as Ruby Sunday. We're very excited to see her as well.
I feel like people know that, but that is exciting.
But that is very exciting. She's previously been on Coronation Street and she looks wonderful. So excited to see her. Her outfit slay. Her acting's fantastic. Haven't said very much about her. I also follow her on Letterboxd, by the way, and she's incredibly funny on there.
Funny.
She gave Barbie a 5 and she said that she screamed every time she saw Shooty. I love her so much. Love you, Queen.
That's so cute.
They filmed a lot of her scenes without him, even when they're meant to be happening in the same place. Sometimes as well for outdoor scenes, they were filming kind of on a hilltop without the camera pointed at Ncuti, so she's just talking to herself. And I think with all of that, they've been trying as much as they can to accommodate his schedules. And even now, they're basically filming series 14 and 15 back to back, which I think is to allow people holidays, a bit of a gap, try not to burn out the cast too much, because everyone who's worked on recent Doctor Who, they say that filming schedule is no joke. They say it's a grueling 9 months. It's pretty locked down in the studio.
Yeah.
It's not the most fun.
I can imagine it's really intense. From shoots I've done that are of a similar kind of stature, it does become grueling and intense. And I think that there was a lot of like really harsh readings online where I think Millie Gibson said something like, "Oh, I find the night shoots really difficult." And they were like, "Millie Gibson, ungrateful 18-year-old who hates Doctor Who, blah, 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 blah." And I was like, I hate night shoot. I hate anything that interrupts my schedule.
I hate working from home in a comfy chair with all of my amenities at a perfect temperature in total silence.
Literally.
And a delicious cup of coffee, and I'll complain.
I know.
So I mean, I of course it's a grueling.
It's horrible for everyone.
Schedule.
I also want to say, because I think I've said this on the podcast before, there's the photos of Millie Gibson's birthday when she was on set and Ncuti had gotten her little Lego minifigures of him as the 14th Doctor and her as Ruby. And then when I had my most recent birthday, I was gifted from Alasdair a sweet little box, and when I opened them, also had the little minifigures of Ncuti.
I got the same
and
ones.
Millie and the 14th Doctor, and I was thrilled and I love it, and they're very, very proud. I've got a lot of Lego at home, but I have a very little display, which Alice has seen before, of like some of my favourites. I have like the gold Harry Potter ones and my Wizard of Oz ones, and they now proudly sit at the top of that shelf.
Oh, I'm glad you're happy.
I love them.
Should we talk about some of the other people who've been cast in Series 14 quickly?
Yes, let's.
There's not too many. As announced in the Children in Need special back in November, we're also getting Millie Gibson as the Doctor's newest companion, Ruby Sunday. We got a beautiful set of character posters, which included one of Ruby, and it was just very exciting to just finally see some official artwork of Ruby Sunday. So excited to meet this
It was weird.
brand new
I felt like we
character.
had already had like the official art, and I realised, no, everything's been leaks.
Yeah, and when you see it like there and like airbrushed nicely and lit properly with I was like, oh my god, this is real.
I know. We had the photo of her coming out of her trailer, but like other than that, really, this is the first like proper poster.
We also had some announcements. Cast who I didn't know personally. We had Aneurin Barnard. He is playing a character whose name I'm going to pronounce wrong because his surname is Welsh, but he looks like a shady politician. So I think we're definitely keeping some of those RTD
Harold Saxon
political vibes. Harold Saxon vibes as well. If you ever saw Years and Years, that was a great drama. I maybe elements of that will come in. Gemma Redgrave is back as Kate Stewart, head of unit. Anita Dobson and Michelle Greenidge are appearing as unnamed, undisclosed roles. They look like they might be neighbours.
I think one of them has said in an interview like I play her neighbour or something, but I don't know if it's been officially announced. Also, very excitingly, we have Jinx Monsoon coming into Doctor Who, and I have a funny story about this because I had just watched, I think they just finished All Stars 7, which was the series that Jinx won, and I was prepping a Wholala Instagram post just before my friend was coming round, who's also a huge Drag Race fan, and about a minute before she came, they suddenly announced Jinx Monsoon's been cast in Drag Race, and I was like, this is a joke. Like I wouldn't. This is never something you think would happen. And I go and lo and behold, it's been officially announced, and I'm like, oh my god! So my friend comes, and I'm like, Jinx Monsoon's going to be in Doctor Who, and she's like, oh my god! And I just kind of ignored her for 10 minutes while I like prepped an Instagram post to post on Wholala, being like, Jinx Monsoon's going to be in Doctor Who. It was so exciting.
We're getting better at getting the major news. We're getting better at it.
We are. We also, more exciting news as well, have Jonathan Groff coming in to play a, quote, key role in the series, which I'm very, very excited. Lots of people think we're going to be getting a musical episode with Jinx Monsoon.
Yes.
Obviously, Jonathan Groff's a singer from like Frozen and Hamilton.
Filming at Abbey Road.
We're probably going to get something Beatlesy. We don't know. We're so excited. We're also getting Indira Varma joining the series to play the Duchess, who I believe is in Jonathan Groff's episode. So that's very exciting.
Yeah, I can't wait. And then one of the really big announcements, we're getting Bonnie Langford reprising her role as Mel Bush for the series. Mel was an 80s companion, if you didn't already know. Mm-hmm. Very interested to see where they're going to take this character because like they did with Sarah Jane Smith, not only reintroduced to a new generation, but they also kind of wrote her character to be older. You know, she's had life experiences now, decades have passed, and she's a different person. Like a lot of her values and perspectives are the same, but she's a whole new person who's lived a life now, and I'm very interested to see where exactly we find Mel. Lenny Rush has been announced to play a mysterious character named Morris. From the kind of character picture we got, some people were saying like, ooh, like child genius, maybe kind of a unit scientist despite his age. Anyway, very interesting. Very interested to see where this goes.
I think so. I'm really, really excited. Mel especially I'm excited for. I feel like both Bonnie Langford and Elizabeth Sladen had said that their companions that they played, Sarah Jane and Mel respectively, in the original series were quite like two-dimensional at times. I think Sarah Jane, rightfully so, has been credited to being one of the first like really prominent female heroines on TV. But Elizabeth Sladen, I don't think necessarily felt the same about her classic run. She said, oh, all I did was sort of like stand around screaming. And I know that Bonnie Langford has said the same for Mel. And to see what Russell did with Sarah Jane and show who she became as her sort of later years went on, I'm so excited. My prediction with Mel is that when we saw her in The Power of the Doctor, she was just like sort of like a little older lady and, you know, reminiscing on the times of the Doctor, and she joined this companion group sort of late. And then Kate sees some potential in her, and Kate, this is my just theory, will recruit her for UNIT, and she will be working for UNIT when we see her in Doctor Who.
Yeah, it's super exciting. I think she does work for UNIT most likely.
Yeah.
But as you say, very excited to see her character kind of get enriched for the new era and grounded and fleshed out a bit more. It wasn't the most well-received character, Mel Bush, though I think remembered very fondly, and Bonnie's, of course, loved by the fans. I think the original portrayal of Mel could have done with a little bit more filling out.
I agree. I'm excited to see all of that to come. So even though it feels like we have all of these things and we know all of these cast announcements, there is so much that we don't know about what's to come. And that's what's so exciting. I know for the specials and for the series with Ncuti, Russell has said they've done a lot of filming in studio. He's like, you've only scratched the surface. You think you know it, you really don't. There's a lot of surprises to come. And I, for one, I love the surprise of it all. Like, I want to be surprised. So there is a lot that we don't know about coming, but there is a lot that we can be excited for, both in what will be on screen and also what comes with Doctor Who going into the Renaissance. What are some things you're excited to see, Alasdair?
So there has been a heavily rumoured UNIT spin-off that I'm super excited to see. And we've talked about this before. Doctor Who used to have a very fleshed out universe, particularly between series 1 to 4 with the Sarah Jane Adventures and Torchwood. I would really like to see another show running alongside Doctor Who that fills some of those gaps when Doctor Who isn't on TV, but fleshes out the continuity a bit more in Doctor Who and kind of just again enriches, adds a new perspective on the world, explores the consequences of some of the Doctor's adventures, adds more context to them, adds more emotional weight to them, gives a different perspective on them. I'm super excited for that, and I think also a great opportunity to bring back more characters, perhaps a role for Mel, perhaps a role for Tegan, perhaps we'll get back Nyssa, who
perhaps
knows
a role
who
for
we'll have
Martha.
Perhaps a role for Martha.
Martha, I'd be very excited for. No, I agree. I think, do you remember they announced, like it wasn't announced officially by the BBC, but it was like announced in newspapers that they're apparently doing a monster spin-off where like each episode focuses on a different monster. I remember I was like, I don't know what I feel about that. I don't want that to just become like fan service, but yes. I don't know. I can't
remember if that was pure rumor. It was almost like it would be disconnected from the Doctor Who continuity completely, and it would just be things that happen in the Who universe.
I can see
but it
that
wouldn't involve the Doctor.
Yeah, I mean, we always say there is a whole universe out there, and we don't always have to follow the Doctor. And I think that it at least for now, while we're going to this newer Doctor, I think it should be somewhat linked. I think UNIT show would be a great way of doing that. We've spoken on our socials and on this before about who we'd like to be in that, but that would be really exciting. I'm excited to see more returning characters. I'm excited. I love the characters that have already been announced. There are some things they're doing now that I personally, if I'm honest, don't have a huge investment in, Doomsday being one of them. We talk a lot. I think interconnected stories between different media are fun, but I just don't have the attention span, I think, to like bother putting the pieces together. I like to be told, like, here's a product, enjoy it, and I don't like having to like hunt for things. I actually got, it wasn't this month, I think it was last month's Doctor Who magazine where you got a Doomsday comic with it, and I really enjoyed reading through that. It's not that I'm not interested in the story, but especially with the promotion of it, like, it makes me laugh how different Doctor Who sort of eras, as well as even within the same era, will market different things. Like I feel like the Doomsday budget for marketing was like 50 pence in a dream, whereas like the Sonic Screwdriver got its own full CGI trailer.
The Sonic Screwdriver got
so
more promotion
weird.
than Doomsday. I feel quite bad for Suze Kemper, honestly, because the reception wasn't good to Doomsday.
Yeah.
And she's a very funny comedian.
I love her on Twitter.
I love her on Twitter as well. And I felt really bad for her that it was received so poorly. But the marketing, I think, really, really let it down. There's another point to that, which is that I think it might be Rusty Davis. Someone else said, but with Doctor Who, really, it almost should be, for you to understand the main story, it should be like no purchase necessary.
Yes.
And I think whenever there's kind of like almost something like this, which is meant to be a 60th celebration tie-in, saying like this is something that you need to pay into for a BBC product to kind of get fully is never great. That doesn't always sit super well, that you need to kind of buy various media to get the whole picture. I don't think is ever going to land excellently.
I agree. And I think that was what people were worried about with it, with them saying that Disney and Disney Plus were going to have such a big involvement, that especially in the UK, they were like, are we going to have to now pay for a new streaming service? What's going on? And it has been obviously announced that the BBC will be the home of Doctor Who in the UK and Northern Ireland. So yeah, I completely agree with that. I think that there is a lot to be said about expanding the story in things you don't need but you can have. Like I loved no, you didn't even have to pay for this actually. Do you remember in 2010 they did Doctor Who The Adventure Games with Matt Smith, and they did I think 5 video games that were on the Doctor website. You could download them for free from the Doctor website, and it was the Doctor and Amy, and then I think the last one was the Doctor, Amy and Rory, and they were full episodes. They had animated cutscenes, and they were basically meant to be adventures that the Doctor and Amy went on that weren't on screen. There was one with the Daleks, one with the Cybermen, one with the Sontarans and Guy Fawkes, and I think there was another one, but I can't remember who the monster was on that one.
Well, I remember watching a compilation of kind of all the various Doctor Who games they've done over time, and pretty much none of them have been super good. But I didn't realize that they'd released it for free, and that is something.
Yeah.
I probably didn't have the minimum system requirements to be playing anything like that, but sounds fun for anyone who did.
I will say it was really, really fun, and I didn't grow up in a household with money and stuff, and so having something like that accessible for free really made me feel valued as a watcher. Talking about expanded media and sort of things you could choose to buy, because I think Doctor Who works best when you can buy things to play with and watch and do that you don't need to have for the story. If I may go on a slight tangent, is I was a big purchaser of Doctor Who action figures growing up, and something that I would love to see a comeback of is easily accessible, high quality Doctor Who merch. Recently, I haven't been buying like Doctor Who figures like I certainly did when I was a kid. As you know, sensitive subject, but I did sell my collection when I was a kid, and I've been like sort of slowly rebuilding it. But the thing I loved as a kid is that you could go into any supermarket or Argos or Toys R Us if you were lucky, and you had so many options as to what you could buy in. There were sort of 5-inch action figures. There were like Barbie scale figures. There were micro universe figures that were tiny. There were like cartoony figures you can get. There was like knockoff Lego that you get. Then later there was real Lego, and you could buy all of this in supermarkets. And we've now moved into a world where any Doctor Who merchandise you want to buy is online exclusive, so you have to buy it online. And up until fairly recently, I will say, so far the only solid physical merchandise we have for the new era is the Regeneration action figure set of Jodie and David and the 14th Doctor Sonic Screwdriver, which we recently ordered, both of which were online character options exclusives, so you couldn't get them anywhere physically unless I think you're at San Diego Comic-Con, which is where they announced the Sonic Screwdriver. And I really hope that we go back into a world where you can get these things in stores, because to be quite honest as well, recently, and again, I hope we're changing this, action figures for Doctor Who have become quite sloppy. This is going to be really niche, and I know I'm sorry, I'm going to bore you. But there'll be Doctor Who action figure purchases that I hope enjoy this. Character Options has been taking body parts from old figures and repurposing them and repaint them to make new figures. They might sculpt a new head, but they'll then I know all of the Yaz bodies are the same body of a Primeval figure that they made in like 2006 or 7. And
oh my God, that's awful.
I know you don't care about this, but I do, and I'm
That's
hoping the
awful.
listeners do.
Oh my God. We should write to your MP. Oh my God. No, I'm kidding.
Listen.
No, I get it.
Yeah, I just feel like it's becoming less and less accessible, and it's also becoming more and more sloppy. And I really hope that we get a lot of good quality accessible merch, because there was so much weird shit when we were growing up. There was money boxes, there was bubble bath, there was a Cyberman motion sensor you could put outside your room that would like shout delete if your brother walked past. Like there was so much weird stuff.
Yeah, I'm so on the same page with you about the merch. It's such an obvious black hole as well, because it's a moneymaker. Like they sold those 14th Doctor Sonic screwdrivers. They sold out in one day.
They crashed the website.
Character Options had to add a virtual queue to the website so people could buy it. And then they said, we've sold out, but we didn't actually realize you'd want it this much. So we're ordering more. But you have to give us 2-3 months because we haven't made them yet.
Yeah.
And the demand is very much there. It's strange how slow they've been to react to that. My gripe is always that you can't buy a toy of the TARDIS. I'm like, it is the most, in my head, apart from the Sonic, basic thing you should be able to buy in terms of Doctor Who merch.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not there. And they last sold it like 3 years ago, and it's now on eBay for like £75 to £100. And it's a toy that was released for like £15-20. And it's that kind of thing that's just really odd to me that you can't get. I mean, any other franchise that's as much of a big global brand as Doctor Who, it's really strange. I mean, not to be like massive consumers, which we really are being right now, but like it's frustrating like that doesn't really exist. But I'm hoping it'll come back.
Well, with that, like I don't know if you ever used to go into Toys R Us and stuff, but you used to be able to go into any toy shop and see a wall of Doctor Who toys, and the thing that you would see the most are TARDISes. Like there would be so many TARDISes. I had like 2, I think, growing up. I know.
Yeah, I totally get it. I remember going into Woolworths and them having the kind of the K9, and someone's going to reply and be like, Woolworths shut in 2008 and the K9 came out in 2009, and they're going to be like, that's a false memory. I remember seeing something along those lines. I remember exactly where it was in the shop and where all the Doctor Who stuff was. But you get the Pals and Time cards and Smiths. It was one of those just brands that was around, and I agree. Like I want to see it back at that level of relevance again. And something interesting I'll say as well, off the back of Barbie, is there's certainly a demand, I think, for more premium merchandise. Not that like is necessarily a priority, but I watched a video by Trixie Mattel today, and Trixie's talking about her Barbie collection. And I was like, I should have.
I love that you didn't know that. I love you didn't know she collects
Barbies. Of course you're a Barbie.
I'm wearing
fan
a Trixie Mattel t-shirt right now.
Yeah, I'm not a mega Drag Race fan, as you know, and I was slow to it. I'm sorry. But she was talking about like, so like this kind of doll is made in this way and this is why it's valuable. And I was like, And I'm a big collector. I'm into collecting things. I love knowing this kind of thing. So I was super intrigued by it. But, it's funny in that way with Doctor Who, there's very few premium Doctor Who items you can buy, but I'm sure there'd be an equivalent market. Like I said, I've got the Doctor Who Sonic TV remote from years back, and that's now worth £200 to £300 on eBay, even though none of the batteries work anymore because everyone's lithium battery's dead now. But there's things like that. I'd love to see some kind of nice collectibles come back.
Yeah, I think that they're trying to market things that they used to market as accessible toys as collector's items. So I recently bought one of the sets of 3 figures. It was the Flux 13th Doctor with the Weeping Angel and Yaz. And it's the exact same type of action figure that we got when we were kids. Same scale, like literally the exact same. But the box says like collector's edition, like collector's box, and they're marketing them as like premium products. But the actual thing that is in the box is what used to be like £5 on a shelf in Tesco. You used to be able to buy, and they now make, and it's exciting when they do it. You'll see it. B&M will do a drop and they'll be like, we're announcing 3 new figure sets, and everyone loses their shit. But we used to have the most random, like Toby said, Unpossessed, Destroyed Cassandra, Grandma Conley. We'd get all these random figures and we would just have so many more options. And I feel like instead of putting the money into creating premium products, everything's just gotten so much more expensive to produce and market and sell that they are taking the original products and marketing them as premium, when I think that there should be an option for kids to buy Doctor Who toys that they can afford and they can save up their pocket money and get. And then collectors can also buy collector's items to their shelves that they can enjoy. I think the figurine collection was a good example of this because they were like metal statuette figures, especially a lot of like classic Who, which kids wouldn't have much an interest in. I think that we need to be able to have both.
I'll say two quick things that I'd like to see a bit more of, I think, going forwards. We talked a lot in the whole like I'm the showrunner episode about kind of story things we'd like to explore more. And that's there where we go into much more of a deep dive about kind of narrative things we'd like to go to, planets, places, things we'd like to do like that. In terms of the show itself, I think one is, I think you have the same point here, Sam, which is more creative marketing and new ways of promoting the show. And I hate to bring everything back to Barbie, but it's timely in that it was just, you know, one of the most phenomenal marketing campaigns of all time. And obviously that was on an insane scale because it was a global campaign and it cost something like 150 million. And in that case, you know, the more they promote, like the more they get in ticket sales and the money comes back. With kind of a BBC product, that's not really the case. And though I'm sure there'll be great promotion for it, it's not gonna be on that level. But like we said, like smart tricks to help them kind of soak up a bit more promo, things that don't even necessarily cost money. It's just a case of good timing, or kind of like with the Warner Brothers pink TARDIS, you know, it was just a clever piece of co-branding that actually might not have cost the BBC anything to do that. It might have been an offer that Warner Brothers just said, can we borrow a TARDIS or be allowed to use the likeness of a TARDIS for this? And you just send a photographer down and that's us sorted. So, yeah, things like that. My final thing, again, I'm going to link this to Barbie. You know what? I'm just going to do it.
Just do it.
But I'd like to see a less heavy-handed approach, I think, to kind of social statements, social causes. Doctor Who is not a neutral show. It has a position. The Doctor has a position. He has a worldview. He has ethics. He has values. And I think that's always been carried pretty well through the show. But there have been some topics that have been dealt with better than others.
I know exactly where you're going, like as in an example you're thinking of.
Well, I mean,
Benny, where's my Benny?
I was going to say climate change. Climate change has not been done well. And there is a rumour that one of the issues they'll deal with in series 15, not 14, is climate change. And this could be complete nonsense. But I heard that would come up. And I'd be interested to see how that's dealt with. The Barbie movie showed, I think, that you can have a strong position on social issues and still make it very entertaining. And you can kind of share a message, but in a way that feels really good and can make you laugh along with it and can poke fun at itself as well. And, you know, can be self-deprecating at the same time as being a great point. There's a way of doing it. And I think, like we've said, I don't want to kind of, you know, worship him too much, but I do think that we have a writer at the helm who does have kind of the talent to do that.
We have faith in him. No, exactly. I feel so too. I feel like as a kid, I never thought that Doctor Who was particularly coming at me with a political, not even political, but just like a sociological point of view. And then when I look back on it as an adult, I'm like, oh, of course, you know, the Howard Saxon subplot, the Torchwood subplot, like there's so many episodes and intertwined storylines that have like a political point of view or a statement or something that they're saying, but I never felt like I was learning because it was just so entertaining.
I was just having so much fun along the way.
And I agree with you. I do think some things have been heavy-handedly done in Doctor Who when it comes to thematical messaging. So yeah, I'd be excited to see what Russell and Ncuti and the rest of the team choose to do with that going forward.
Yes. I'll slip in a final point, which is that we need more women writing stories in Doctor Who. We need more diversity across the board behind the scenes. We need much more diversity in the writers' room. I know that there have been a lot of efforts to do that and improve that and try and like bring in kind of new voices and help those people get up to speed. And that Doctor Who is a very demanding show to write for. And that just means that the showrunner ends up kind of controlling a lot of it because it's their vision. They know how to write for Doctor Who. They know how to write quickly for Doctor Who. And if it's their work, it doesn't kind of need their edits because they've made it. But we have had really, really, really poor representation from women writing for Doctor Who. And that needs to change going forwards because, as we've said before, very hard to, I think, tell stories well, authentically from different perspectives if you're not from those groups.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, again, we touched on it more so in our I'm the Showrunner Now episode, but much as I'm excited to see what Russell does with the show, a big part of that excitement comes from seeing who he brings to the show, both on screen and off screen. I think that Doctor Who is ever changing, and I don't particularly have this concern, but I know people do, that we're going to get stuck on thinking that Russell is the saviour of Doctor Who and his word is gospel, and when he leaves it's just going to get bad again because Russell's gone. I don't think that's the case. I think that Russell is going to be taking something that we already loved and really polishing it and making it shiny and new and differently packaged and exciting. And I think what he's going to do with his tenure, because he's not planning on doing it indefinitely, I think he's going to bring on people to sort of learn with him and grow with him and do it with him, to then pass off to them as he whenever chooses to leave, so that a whole new generation of people, because as we spoke about in the episode we did with Beth Axford, the people who are watching Doctor Who when they're a kid, they're old enough now to be working on the show. It was recently announced in Doctor Who magazine, one of the new script editors, and I was like, I know you. You're someone I know. I've worked with you before. You're a similar age to me, and you're doing the script editing for Doctor Who. That's insane. And so I'm really excited to see who they bring on to make the show, because I love it so much. You love it so much. It holds such a special place for both of us, and we're just excited to see how it will grow. We're like sending our kid off to school.
Yeah, I'm very excited for, I think, new stories. A lot of the old stories from even series 1 have held up very well and remain very entertaining, which is why we were able to do like so many episodes at the start of this podcast, really.
Exactly. And I think, yeah, I want to touch on this for a second and say thank you everyone for listening to Wholala as long as you have. Can you believe come October we'll have been doing this podcast for a year and we still won't have seen any new Doctor Who.
I still haven't seen a single new episode. Ugh.
It's crazy.
God, get a hobby, guys.
Honestly,
this doesn't count.
This is a hobby.
This is a hobby. There's so much to look forward to. The hype is definitely building. I think I was complaining to you the other day and we had a bit of a contradiction. We were like, this is the 60th anniversary and nothing's happening. And then at the same time, I was trying to keep up with the amount of releases that were happening to post it on the Wholala Instagram.
This was before the character posters and the sonic screwdriver and the new toy. And
I was like, all right.
Yeah, we were like, well, the BBC heard us.
Yeah, maybe things are happening. Fine.
But no, the things I want mainly are for them to announce the dates of these bloody episodes. And then, yeah, just see the new content. I'm excited. Yeah, exactly.
We need the day before and after off just to recover.
Literally, we will. There's so much to look forward to. We couldn't possibly talk about it all, but I did want to just say a quick thank you to the listeners for sticking with us through this episode, but through all of Wholala. This, as I said, is going to be the finale. Welcome to the Renaissance of season 2 of Wholala. It's been a real joy. Season 1 of Wholala, we were finding our feet and starting our series by looking at the beginning of the new series of New Who, series 1 of Doctor Who. And then season 2 of Wholala, we really explored the Whoniverse and we went all around, went to the past, the present, went to classic, went to spin-offs, we looked at fan favourites, we looked at some not so fan favourites, and all things Pride as well throughout the month of June. And so season 3 of Wholala is very exciting because we are in full ramp to the Renaissance, baby. We are going to be looking at everything full steam ahead going towards the 60th, and we really want you to let us know what you would like to see. We've had some amazing suggestions even for this episode. We couldn't possibly do them all. Someone said they wanted to see a full episode about Rose. Someone suggested a great John Pertwee episode to loop back to. We do see all your messages and we do take them on board, and we're excited to bring those into season 3 of Wholala as we go towards the specials.
Yes, and we're very excited to take you on that journey, steward you in to the new era and get excited with you as we approach. It's very strange that at some point in our next season of Wholala, we're going to be here talking to you about the latest episode we just saw, reflecting on the specials, reflecting on the Christmas episode, and reflecting on Ncuti Gatwa's first episode of his first full series. It is all coming very, very soon.
It really is. Season 3 of Wholala will take us right through until the end of Christmas, going forwards into the new year, which will be another new season. So please, as I said, reach out to us on all of your socials. Twitter, not Twitter, is it X now? It's not Twitter anymore, is it? It's X.
Oh, God.
It's going to be so. If the Bird app is still there, you can reach out to us on that. You can reach out to us on Instagram, TikTok, Threads.
I can't say follow us on X.
Follow us on X. My boyfriend points out it's the same logo as the Christina Aguilera X tour, but flipped. And I'm like, she should reach out for her
Elon
lawyers.
Musk is the dumbest. Let it be on this. You know what? This podcast will probably survive longer than me somewhere in some. Let it be on the record. I think Elon Musk is a fucking idiot. Anyway,
Well,
Elon Musk.
I
you
reckon that
stupid man.
he just has so much money that he has done this all as a troll, because he spent 40 billion or something on Twitter, and he has done every active decision he can to destroy it as a platform. And do you know who I blame for that? Do you know who I blame for that? Miss Evangelista. Because she married him,
yeah.
and she said, apparently, the actress that plays Miss Evangelista from Silence in the Library Forest of the Dead, apparently she said to him, you should buy Twitter and turn it off. And I think that's what he's doing.
And that's what he's doing. It's all an old pledge to Miss Evangelista. Tallulah Riley, do you know what you've done?
Tallulah Riley knows what she's done.
Do you know what you've done?
Some of the things that we're going to be doing in the new season of Wholala, just to touch on a few things. We're going to be looking at episodes of Doctor Who we think that you should watch before watching the specials. We'll be doing some character profile episodes on characters that you might want to look back on before getting to the specials. And also perhaps do some recaps of things you should probably know before you watch, guess what? The specials.
We're very excited. And if you enjoy this episode and you are excited for the next season and all the things we're going to explore together, please do take a moment to leave us a review on wherever it is that you get your podcasts. If it's Spotify, Apple Music, wherever it is, we'd very much love to hear from you.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much to listening to another season of Wholala. We're very, very grateful to have you with us. We won't see you next week, but the week after, we'll be back in full force, ready for season 3 of Wholala.
See you then.
Bye.